What's good, everyone? Let's talk about it. Now, everyone saw Jeanie Buss on the show with Captain Jack and All Up in Smoke, Matt Barnes. You know, the show where Matt got to do all the talking because Captain Jack be fried. He be fried sometimes. It's like he's stuck. Then Matt got to run the whole show, basically. Let's talk about it. Like a lot of people were speaking about the her picking her most important five Lakers, and she picked LeBron and put him in that category. She started off with Kareem, was about to forget Magic. It's a lot of names, but people were shocked she didn't put Jerry West. And I was like, she's not going to pick Jerry West. Let me tell you that right off the bat. She's not going to pick Jerry West. She doesn't know Jerry West, the player. She knows Jerry West, the former general manager, the GM of the Los Angeles Lakers. She knows that Jerry. The Jerry that brought over Kobe and Shaq. Now, many people might ask themselves, why? Why is she even on this list? Well, as simple as this. Jeanie Buss is in a situation where she feels as if she is running the show now, which she is. And when Dr. Buss basically was not in his heyday, he always wanted the son to run the company. He wanted Jeanie to work there in some capacity, but his son was going to be the one in charge. Dr. Buss wanted to have Jerry there as in a capacity. Jerry wanted to be president and run the team. He wanted to be president of basketball operations, and these things were discussed. But there was like torturous interference that was coming from Jeanie. A lot of pressuring going on about her role on the team at that time, back when Kobe and Shaq was there. She was doing like interviews talking about things that she shouldn't have been talking about at that time. Jerry started to see a conflict of interest when Jeannie's being like brought along into situations that Jerry's like, why is she here? You bought a damn volleyball team to keep her busy, so doing something. It's it's like, okay, I understand your children, you're going to groom them to be owners, but, but come on, let's be serious. The day to day in basketball, stuff needs to go to me. And Jerry is a very proudful human being. Now, as far as the top five Lakers, because a lot of you guys were caught on that. The most important Los Angeles Lakers would be Elgin Bella, Jerry West, Wilt Chamberlain, Magic Johnson, Kobe Bryant. That's your list. Now, some would say Kareem belongs in there. And if you want, you could sub out Jerry West and put in Kareem. Jerry was great, but was he more valuable than Kareem? And more important piece in bringing Kareem over, I wouldn't, that's a toss up. But Wilt was very important to the Los Angeles Lakers. And to exclude him out of it, that's major. So, I mean, some people might take Wilt out and put Kareem and Jerry West in there, and Jerry was more important than Wilt. I have a hard time with that one. But Shaq wasn't as important as Kobe, because Kobe without Shaq could eventually win it. Shaq needed a lot of elements to happen for him to be successful, like the lack of centers. When it's a lack of centers in the game, a lot of lack of big men, it's easy to dunk over a 6'10" guy and 6'8" guy who's trying to play center. So, yeah, it was sickening to watch Shaq just go over everybody and knock people down and stuff like that. But anyway, we're getting off track. So anyway, Jerry West had made a plea to Dr. Buss, who didn't want him to leave. And he said, Jeannie's got to go. She's in my way. I can't stay here if you're going to continuously allow this to happen. And Dr. Buss had to let Jerry go. Jerry left to go run another team and was refusing to come back to the Los Angeles Lakers. He was very upset that Dr. Buss could not come to an agreement. He was very, bitter because he's a prideful man and he felt he'd done a lot for the organization to the point where he would be having his position for a very long time. And he just didn't like people involved in what he was doing. He wanted full autonomy to do what he wanted. Now, Jerry West is old school. When Jerry West played, Jerry West was, he grew up in a time when it was a tougher game. And now people are trying to apply today's rules with yesterday's rules. And there's too much fraternizing going on in the NBA. And it kind of takes away from you know, the game. You got too many guys fraternizing with people on the other side of the court. I'm not saying everybody should hate each other and be enemies, but my goodness, do you have any sense of pride? They're not even friends with their own teammates. They're shaking hands with people who they're trying to, like Jerry West was said, why shaking hands with the enemy who wants to kill you? You should want to kill them first. It's a war. That's how he said it too. That's how Jerry West thinks. The logo does not move like that. He moves in an assassin like way. He thinks go out there and destroy him. That's his game. That's his mentality. So when you say things like that, you want to be heard. You want your self-worth to mean something. So it makes, it's a pride for you. What is this? It's a pride for you, a piece of pride when you can. It's a piece of pride when you can go out and say, this is what I am, and you was running a team. Things were where they needed to be. Now, for the rest of everyone in the world, things moved a little different. Things weren't so grounded. You know what I mean? They had their own energy, their own way. Everybody moved differently, but to move the way that Jenny Bus and Dr. Bus was moving, it was mostly to move Jenny to where she would be president almost and running the team. And that was something that Jerry thought she was very inept and was not ready for that type of role. And he was ready to leave. And I mean, this was after winning an NBA championship. They had just came back into prominence. Shaq and Kobe was there. They were back on top, and Jerry wanted to stay. Now, Phil at the time was dating Jenny. Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson and Jerry West didn't get along. Phil has a very huge ego, which was created back in Chicago with Jordan's success with Scotty and all of this. They was calling him the Zen master. He was really absorbing those headlines. So now, with all of that transpiring, you got people who's involved who normally wouldn't be involved. So it's like, okay, these people normally wouldn't be involved in something like this. That's cool. But they're involved now. So what you want to do is maintain the unity, but he's keep trying to interfere in the process of getting players. And when they won the championship, with Kobe and Shaq, he thought that this would loosen the problems, but it only materialized more because Phil is having say about personnel and and questioning Jerry's decisions. So it was like, look, one of us has to go. I'm not going to work like this with this Phil and Jeanie show. This is not going to happen. Now, they were putting out reports that he didn't like. The Lakers was leaking things that he's going to have to retire due to health issues. This is before they got Kobe and Shaq. So what he did was retire. And then a few years later, after his contract basically was paid out, he came back and signed a 5-year deal to work with the Memphis Grizzlies. Then after those 5 years was up, he went to work for Golden State. So I think it was 2017. It was talks of Jerry coming back home, to possibly run the team because Mitch was going to be out. The son was going to be in charge and run things, and this did not happen. Magic Johnson became the new team president with Rod as general manager, and he ended up going to the Clippers. So it's always been like that. It's always been some type of hang up to where it always comes back to something else. And this was just another one. So that's why on that conversation call, he was like, over there with the Lakers and that S show that they got going over there with the Lakers. I don't know why Kawhi would even think of going there. Like, what was that? When someone leaked a phone call. This appears to be Jerry West, because that was Jerry West, and called the Lakers a it show, because that's exactly what it was. Now this year, the Clippers look more together than they were last year. I think they got rid of their headaches, got a little bit more maturity and focus on the team, and I look forward to seeing them in the playoffs. I think this year they will get past the second round for the first time in franchise history. And Jerry West will be at the helm of that. But no, they're not very fond of one another. So, anyway, I'm out. Don't forget to like the video. You want to support the page, my Cash App is Carceno, Karceno. And for everyone else, God bless you, and good night. Well, it's not good night, but you know what I mean.